Today, I'll do my very best, knowing that when I come back to my home later on, I may doubt my own skills, I may doubt my talent, I may sit with an internal experience of that I'm not as competent as other people are actually perceiving me. Today, we will talk about something that you can't really see or measure, but something that people, especially working around you, see, but you don't. You see yourself, but people around you don't really see. So today we will actually be talking about something that we don't really talk about. And why is that? It's because it's become a taboo in our working modern work life. So today, nearly 70% of all individuals, they experience the imposter phenomenon sometime in their lifetime. The mismatch of what people from a rational perspective see and how you perceive yourself. My name is Caroline Hartz-Seested, and I have the pleasure of being the host at TEDx Copenhagen live session, the 8th session today, which is called The Taboos in Our Modern Work Life. We have the pleasure of being here at our online studio at Matricle 1, and we have a very special guest with us tonight. Her name is Anne C. Schødt, and she is an expert in the imposter phenomenon, and she's also an expert in the bore-out phenomenon and the performance patterns. She has a company called Potentialefabrikken, in English, the Potential Factory. She has worked for many years as a change facilitator, and she's also written a book, a step-by-step guidebook around the imposter complex. So let's see if we can invite Anne into our live studio, if she's with us tonight. We are connected. You are. Welcome to our TEDx Copenhagen live studio, Anne, and thank you so much for spending your evening with us. We've been looking forward to talking with you.
It's my pleasure.
Great. And you have specialized over the past many years in really understanding what most of us know as the imposter syndrome, but you call it the imposter phenomenon. And today we are talking about how is it affecting our workforce today. So maybe you can please explain the phenomenon, imposter phenomenon, and also explain why is it so important for you to research and work with this area.
Well, I've been working with it since I started my company in 2012 and decided that I wanted to help with personal development for the 10% most intelligent persons because I see that they experience different kind of issues and challenges in their work life and private lives as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first heard about this, I also thought it was called the Imposter Syndrome, and it sounded a bit spectacular and dangerous. However, I studied it and read about it, and read some of the articles that the original author Pauline Clance and her colleague Susan Imes had written initially in the 1970s, late 1970s. And when I read about it, it became obvious to me that this was an issue that would be very relevant for the persons that I was working with.
Yeah, because it's not a diagnosis. It's not that you're being put in a psychological box, and that it's a difficult mental disease. As some people see it.
Yeah, and the thing is that when you go and search on the internet, the most common used word is the imposter syndrome. However, when I was giving the permission in 2015 to translate the original Clance imposter phenomenon scale to Danish, I first translated it into Danish, and then it was translated back to English, and then proven by Dr. Clance.
Yeah.
And it was very important for her that it was not a syndrome, it was not a disease, it was a phenomenon, and a quite common phenomenon. And then later, when I was working with it, had been working with it for some years, and we started on writing the book. I had been studied at the Young Institute here in Copenhagen, and I realized that it was more like a kind of a complex, an inferiority complex that people suffer from in their professional lives, and they don't have a realistic self-perception. They constantly compare themselves to somebody who are much better, or at least that's what they think. They think that others are much more competent and much more clever and much more successful than they themselves experience that they are.
And so with this complex and a feeling that a lot of people have the sense of not feeling good enough, and that you are not allowed to kind of share that in the workplace, and for that reason it's become something that we don't talk about. Why do you think that it has become such a big taboo in the workplace today, with the low self-esteem, and that, you know, having a high IQ can be a taboo? What is that rooted in?
For some peculiar reason, the intelligence is even more tabooed than your sexual orientation or whatever, because when you are, according to the bell curve, if you are more intelligent than most of the people, the thing is that you can't mention it, because then the rest of them will feel stupid, and nobody likes that. And getting back to your questions about this feeling of inferiority, and that you're not allowed to, or nobody wants to raise their hand and say, oh, well, I feel totally incompetent. Maybe you should find somebody else for this job, because I'm not able to fill it in.
Yeah.
So nobody's doing that. And when I give speeches about it, people are quite shy, because even if I bet that all of the persons in the room are suffering from some kind of some degree of this imposter complex.
Yeah,
it's taboo. You're not supposed to say that you feel insufficient and not qualified for your job or stuff like that.
Yeah. And I was actually a little bit surprised when we talked the other day, and to understand that it's more seen with, you know, top 10 of the brightest people, but also looking at research, a lot of people have the sense of the imposter phenomenon sometime in their life. So is it difficult from, you can say, highly intelligent people and more normal people to deal with this? Because I think that there's a lot of listeners today that some point in their life, when they go into a new job or start school, or that they have this sense of not feeling good enough.
The thing is that when you are more intelligent than the average, you, right from the beginning of your childhood and your time at school, you experience that some things at least, and maybe most of the things that you learn, come to you quite easily.
Yeah.
But then when you compare yourself to the other ones, they struggle more with it, and you may feel like you're bluffing or cheating, or that it's too easy for you.
Yeah.
And the other way around is that when things comes easy to you, you may think that what is easy for me is easy for everybody else.
And so how would that look like in an everyday situation? I know you have a little monkey to illustrate, you know, how
I used to
how
say,
people. Yeah, go ahead.
I used to say that this imposter phenomenon is like a vicious virus that is planted in your brain, or has a malware that has installed itself and disturbing all the other programs. And the way that it comes into expression is these little monkeys, because then, first of all, you can't see your own success.
So that's the one. That's the monkey with
Yeah,
the hands and the
you
eyes.
can't see
Yeah,
the good things you're doing. You can only see the mistakes you made and things
yeah,
you're not able to do. And then when people tell you, "Oh, you're so skilled, you're so talented, you're so clever, you can do anything," then you can't hear it. You're not able to internalize if people praise you. And then the last one is this one. You think that what I have to say is so common and ridiculously obvious. So
yeah,
I'm not gonna say it. I'm just keeping it to myself.
yeah.
And
And so,
especially the introverts have this issue.
yeah. And so when you kind of realize that you may be, affected, and that you may not achieve what you really want because you have these challenges on the way by not, listening to what other people are saying, and not expressing your own feelings, and not feeling good enough. I know that you have in your book that you showed us before, the imposter complex, release your professional inferior. You have given, or we kind of follow this girl Rebecca, who's actually, I don't know if you call it suffering, but is
Oh yes.
affected is affected by the imposter phenomenon. And I know that in your book you give some step-by-step guidance, because I know that you told me, Caroline, this is not something you can fix in one day.
No,
This is
there's no
something that
quick
you,
fix.
yeah. And so of course we are extremely curious to hear, you can say, the golden nuggets from your book, or if you can share with our followers what you do if you find yourself in a situation where you don't release your potential. What would be some advices from you to our followers on how to?
Well, the 4 steps in the book, and I may say that Rebecca was suffering extremely. She scored 100 of 100 possible in the imposter phenomenon scale. So she was really suffering, and she was restless and not able to sleep several days before a big event, if she was responsible for it. So she had very big problems when she contacted me the first time. But then after this 3-month development process, going through the 4 steps, her score was below 40. And then she
Okay.
asked me if I wanted to write this book with her. Anyway, the 4 steps are, first of all, you have to have a consciousness about it. You have to know, oh, well, this is the name of my problem, and this is what it is, and this is how it works for me. And then you have to understand how this has an impact on your daily life. And the third step, which is the most important, because people tend to be conscious and reflect a lot about it and try to understand what is going on. But the thing that really makes a difference is action, actually doing something about it. And that may be just giving yourself a tiny little challenge every day. That will slowly build up your self-confidence, and knowing that you will be able to do it next time. But that's the thing that people suffering from the imposter phenomenon doubt all the time. Even if they succeed, they think next time it will really crash down on me. And the 4th step is persistence. Being able to continue doing what you know you need to do, to be able to overcome this issue.
And so I think that, this is kind of your perspective from the person who's suffering from the imposter phenomenon. But I'm also guessing that it can create some challenges for leaders who have, I see them also as, perfectionists and really high achievers, and sometimes people who are setting the bar even higher than than what other people are expecting them to deliver.
I think
But
there's
if
a term for it. Insecure overachievers.
yeah, and so what
Um,
would be your what? Because I think that there are quite a few of them in the workplace today. I don't know if it was less in years ago, but I do see that the feeling of not being good enough is something that especially the younger generations are talking a lot about. So how would you recommend, leaders to manage these employees who are suffering from this imposter phenomenon? How do you release their potential in a way so that they get the confidence that they do their job really well?
well, first of all, you have to stop saying, "Oh, but you're doing such a good job," because they are not able to hear it. So you have to listen to them, and you have to use your empathy to understand what is going on. Because when a person is suffering from this, they may not be able to express it. They just experience extreme anxiety when they're going to perform. If they're going to do a PowerPoint presentation, that may feel as the end of their life because they are becoming very visible, and they are being evaluated by their peers or by the managers or by a big group of colleagues. And that is really pushing them to the limit. So and that's the typical thing that people say, "Oh, but you just have to believe yourself. You did such a good job last time." Yeah, but the person is quite sure that this time everything will go wrong. So they're not able to have a realistic perception of what they are able to do. And they think they get very nervous, and they feel, even if they had done the presentation, they might redo it and do it all over.
Yeah.
Or they over prepare. So when they actually try to present what they have studied and prepare themselves to talk about, they blah 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 blah. They go very fast because
Yeah.
they rehearse too many times,
Yeah.
for instance.
I remember you told me that one of the things you do when you coach and mentor people is to ask them to take an IQ test.
Yeah.
Sometimes, at least, maybe you want to elaborate on why do you do that? Because in my perspective, I could think that this would be even more challenging for these people. But what is the rationale for doing this, Anne?
And the thing is that as long as they are only, listening to their own voice, inner voice of doubt and fear and inferiority, they are not able to have a realistic perception of what is going on and what they are really able to do. And when they take an IQ test, they can actually see, oh, well, I'm not just average, I'm quite above average. So the test is a fact, and that facts may help them to adjust their self-perception. Yeah,
Fascinated.
you just disappeared.
Yeah, but we talked about the IQ, the reason for doing the IQ testing.
Yeah. And you didn't hear my explanation?
Yeah, we could hear you, so it was just me that
Okay.
was out, and
Yeah.
yeah, so it's
It's
for
to
them
get the
to
facts.
to get the facts so that they can see that, okay, it's the outside in the facts that I can't really debate because this is the output of the test, even though, as you were saying, then some people think that there must have been a mistake in
It
the
was,
test, just
yeah.
underlying that the
Yeah.
challenge that they're
Yeah.
having.
It's a child test.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not really working, or I've just
yeah,
been lucky this day.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they come up with all kinds of excuses.
yeah. But and if we kind of look into the future and the future of work, with a growing gig economy where more and more become freelancers and consultants and contractors, how do you see people working with or suffering from the imposter phenomenon kind of connect to this world of, maybe they need to be freelancers and work for themselves?
I meet quite a few of them, and they consult me because they struggle with the planning and structuring their daily life. But the very big issue is also being able to actually charge the customers what they're worth and what their work is worth for the customer. So they spend too much time and earn too little money, because they think, but what I'm doing is not that difficult. Anyone can do that, so it can't be that valuable. But it is, and that's one of the, the problem with the unrealistic self-perception is also very obvious when they have to make a living from this.
Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing all your great insights. And I think that there's a lot of great key points. It was nice that you wanted to share your 4 step-by-step guidance with us. And of course, you can read more in your book about that. So I wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your time with us and talking a little bit about Rebecca's experience, giving some advices to leaders working with people suffering from the imposter phenomenon, but also giving some tips and tricks to the many people out there who are struggling with these things in their everyday, both private and work life. So thank you so much, and hope to see you again. And with that, we are finalizing our TEDx Copenhagen 9th session. We will be back with our 10th session, which will be a live session about why people is not just a workforce, but taking the layer of why people are so important when we talk about the workforce. So with that, I want to say thank you so much to Matricle One, because we could be here in our lovely studio. I want to say thank you so much to all the hardworking people behind the scenes at TEDx Copenhagen. And of course, I want to say a big thank you to you guys for listening in. See you again next time.